It's now 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting. December 13th. We do have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order. First item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions, deletions? Seeing none. Declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest.
Yes, conflict, 8.5.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harder. Item 4.1 is the RCMP report, which we have not received. Public question period. Any questions from the public, SAO Hood?
I have not received any questions, no.
Okay, item 6.1, minutes of the November 22nd and 24th, 2021 council meetings. Any questions or concerns on the minutes? Seeing none. Action items list. We have, I believe, 4 items that'll be removed after tonight's meeting, or Wednesday night's meeting, I mean. Any other questions on the action items? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just on item number 6, it's the one that refers to the compost and public information. I know that like we learned recently in our budget sessions there that Public Works Department is actually working on some compost projects. So I wonder if either that should be removed or modified to be more in line with what they're working on.
I don't know if it should be removed, Deputy Mayor, because I think we still need community engagement on this, whether that means a public meeting or some other form of communication. So it doesn't hurt to leave it on.
Maybe we could like clarify then, like, do we want to see some public engagement happen here by March, or like what? I don't know. It just seems very open the way it is. Or do we?
Yeah, I realize that.
Just suggesting it, or do we wait till after strategic priorities? Like, I know a few things are kind of waiting for that right now. I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because I know that it's in the works already. So
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. When we have our strategic priority meeting, we can bring that up. Sometimes I have a problem with English.
okay.
Anyway, any other concerns? Okay, seeing none, the next item is 8.1, the 2022 interim operating and capital budget. I believe you all received a copy of the email from Chitty with the changes as was requested by council at the meeting. So any further questions on this item? Seeing none. 8.2, request for approval of conditional use by Parks Canada. I believe Alex is going to do a presentation on this. So if you'd like to go ahead here, you're on.
All right, everybody can hear me okay? My name's Alex Lillian. I'm an asset manager for Parks Canada. I'm based in Yellowknife, and I support 8 different national parks and sites in the NWT, and Inuvik National Park, which is in the Yukon, but is a Western Arctic park that was established along with some other ones as part of the Inuvik final agreement. And so that's what brought Parks Canada to Inuvik back in 1986. We first opened our offices in Inuvik, and we've been growing ever since there. We host or attract about 100 visitors a year to our national parks and bring them through Inuvik, visitors that stop and shop and support the businesses of Inuvik. And our staff's proud to be a part of the community and working together with local businesses and organizations to develop economic opportunities in the region. I'm going to go through the slide deck. I see we're already on slide 2, but basically the proposal that I'm bringing to you today is the same proposal that I brought to you in May of this year. And it hasn't really changed much, but I felt that I didn't present all the details very well to you in May. And I didn't clarify some of the key points of how this project differs from other projects and what maybe the mutual benefits for the community and for Parks Canada might be. So I'm asking for your time today to clarify some of those points. We've waited the 180-day required waiting period to resubmit our application. So we own 6 houses in Inuvik. These are older houses that were managed by another federal department prior to us taking them over a couple years ago. They're not very energy efficient, and as you'll see in the presentation, they make up a big part of our greenhouse gas emissions. And the government of Canada has put in some ambitious commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 40% below the 2005 levels by the year 2030. And this project to build some new housing, net zero energy ready houses in Inuvik is part of a larger project to green our northern housing. So I'll just switch to the next slide, or if someone could do that for me. Parks Canada's greenhouse gas emissions mostly come from our buildings, our facilities, and our fleet of vehicles. A larger portion is our facilities, and of that, the largest portion is from heating and operating our houses, our staff houses. So we went to apply for some external funding to design extremely energy efficient net zero houses that we could use across the north, and including Inuvik, that are specifically suited for life in the north, for our staff, for their lifestyles, but also for obviously the climate in the north. So these houses have been designed to be replicated in various communities, but one of which is Inuvik, where we'd like to propose to put one. So if we can move on to the next slide. We started by interviewing and working closely with our staff to figure out what their needs were, as well as working with northern businesses and builders. Our architect is a Whitehorse-based architect who's completed a lot of projects in Inuvik, pretty familiar with the community. We worked with some local builders in the early part of our design process to understand what their thoughts are and what their recommendations would be. We looked at a whole bunch of different solutions, single family units, duplexes, triplexes, and we did energy modeling on all of those and assessed the cost and assessed the greenhouse emissions from each of those options. And ultimately, through analyzing all of that stuff and putting it together with the needs of our staff, we concluded that a duplex design was going to be the best solution from a cost perspective and an energy and greenhouse gas emissions perspective. For context, replacing 2 of our existing houses would save 17 tons of CO2 equivalent per year with this design. So that gives some of the background. Moving on to the next slide, talk a little bit about how that fits in with the community from our perspective. And Inuvik's been a leader in climate innovation for a long time. They developed the Utilidor system, and there's been other examples over the years. And I think that this project of bringing net zero ready houses, which are starting to be built in the south, but bringing that north of the Arctic Circle is that hasn't been done effectively anywhere. So it continues that trend that Inuvik's had of innovation for sustainable development in the north. We're also, as I said before, we've been working with northern businesses, and our tendering process will be targeted to benefit northern businesses and local builders. Because our parks were established because of the Inuvik final agreement, we have commitments as part of that agreement to ensure that our tendering process benefits, and specifically benefits the Inuvik businesses as well. So the investment in this construction will directly benefit the community and the businesses in the community. And a key point that I think I failed to explain the last time I looked at this project with you guys is that what we're proposing will not increase the density on Carmichael Drive. And this is quite different from previous proposals that I think in 2010 or 20, sorry, 2020, the GNWT Housing Committee Corporation and the RCMP together came to you and talked about 8 duplexes on Carmichael. And those duplexes would have been 2 units on a single lot. They would have increased the density on the street, and council at the time voted against that proposal. Our proposal here would not increase the density. We're talking about 1 unit per lot. We own 2 lots on the street. We're proposing 1 duplex. So it would not increase the density at all on the street. It's essentially 2 single family homes that happen to share a wall. And we've selected that option because of the energy and greenhouse gas efficiencies that I talked about earlier. So it ultimately, it will end up with a premium construction building, doesn't increase density on the street, doesn't request any variances to the bylaw. This area is zoned for low density residential, and we're not requesting any change to that or any variances on lot lines or property line variances to the property line. So the last slide is just a picture of what the concept rendering would look like for the duplex relative to the other houses on the neighborhood. And that's all I wanted to present, but I'm here to answer any questions, and I believe one of my colleagues will be here as well, or is here, and can answer some questions. That's David Ebert, who's the field unit superintendent based in Inuvik.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Before I open it up to questions from council, I just want to remind council this is not a change in the zoning bylaw. Duplexes are allowed as a conditional use in residential. Secondly, you can't compare this proposal to past decisions of council on conditional uses. For example, comparing it to the RCMP application to build a duplex. This one has to stand on its own merit. So anyway, I'll open up to questions. Any questions from council? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Thank you. And thanks for the presentation, Alex, and hello again, David. I get we've had a few emails come in from residents with concerns about basically the continuity of the community feel up in that neighborhood. And so one of the questions I would ask is, I mean, the rendering is a rendering, so of course it doesn't give a full account of what everything looks like, but what are the plans for things like yard? is there, is it going to look like someone's front yard, or is it going to look like a duplex in the middle of a bunch of houses, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And the intention is to make it, this is going to be a home for our staff. These are going to be family homes. And our staff are a mix of local, born and bred in Inuvik, and as well as people that have come from away for a while. But our staff generally are community members. They live and work in the community, and they're proud to be a part of the community. And these are their homes. So getting the yards, we want a yard that's going to be and where people can use it for just the way any of us would use our own houses. So I hope that
Anything
answers.
further, Deputy Mayor?
Not right now, but perhaps in a bit.
Okay, Councillor Gallons.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for the presentation. I'm fairly new on this issue, and I appreciate the context you provided on kind of how things evolved. So I guess my first question is, you've come to the town council in the past, you've come to us now. Have you actually spoken to the residents on the street about this project?
Yeah, we have sent out a mailing to the folks in the street and in the community about the project,
Okay.
and invited them to talk to David. When I talked to David earlier today, he hadn't received any questions as of yet, but if that's different, David, now and you're on, please pipe up. But we have certainly invited the community to talk to us through that mailing out to the community, and we're absolutely open to feedback on how they want to see the development in the area.
Okay, and I guess my second question is, and I'm kind of thinking about the history and where we're at now. Is there a specific reason why you're focused on the location on Carmichael?
That's a great question. Thanks. The location on Carmichael is ideal from a solar gain perspective, which is important to the energy efficiency and the energy modeling. Having something that faces south or within a certain degree of south is really important to bringing energy into the building from the sun, and that really helps towards the net zero aspect of the construction. So we did go through, after our last meeting in May, we went through with the folks from the town to try and find alternative lots. And we looked at a few options. None of them were suitable from the aspect of solar gain, or we had the same issues with the zoning. But really, these are the best lots that are available in town from that solar gain perspective, and that's really one of the key ones for us.
So you mentioned it's a key factor. Just if you were to take this factor away from the construction of those buildings, how would that affect your, I guess, the efficiency of the building?
So we did a bunch of analysis to turn the buildings around in different directions towards south and see. And I'm trying to remember I can't quote the exact detail or numbers to you because I can't remember them at the moment, but it was a significant difference in greenhouse gas emissions and heating the further you get away from south, and that that does make a big difference. It's to the tune of, I think it was around $1,000 a year kind of thing, and I can't remember how many tons a year of greenhouse gases, but it was significant.
I guess my last question, and I'm kind of thinking about other streets that are near Carmichael Drive. Is the difference in that prime spot? I guess I'm trying to understand. I take the point that that might be the best location for that factor of efficiency in the house you want to build. But if you were to pick a different street in the same area, is the difference that, I guess, that substantial, where you'd lose that efficiency, or you lose that solar power you're looking for, to the point where it just wouldn't be feasible to use that option in the structure? Like I'm trying to understand like the prime location versus other locations that are facing south in the same area, and how that would affect, or how substantial that changes in the efficiency factor we're talking about.
Yeah, well, if I'm understanding the question, if we had another lot that was facing south and had good south facing, could we use that, and would it be any different from an
Exactly, on a different street?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be different at all. If we were on a different street with a good south facing lot, that would be the same. It would be,
Okay.
The energy output would and the results would be the same. Yeah.
Okay.
But we couldn't find another street or other lots in town when we worked with the town, when we worked with the development officer that were suitable. And I think, going back to your last question, I don't feel like I think I answered the concept, but I'd love to share the actual numbers, and we can make that available. That analysis, if anybody's interested, I'm happy to share that to give you the exact sort of difference of energy as you rotate around from south.
I guess, I mean, I can't speak for the councilors, but I mean, I'd be curious on what those differences are, and how substantial they might be. And because I'm kind of, I mean, I think it's a great concept to bring forward to our town about efficiency, and how you can actually create a structure and build a structure from the start to finish that incorporates the maximum efficiency you can find. So I'd be curious to know more about that. So
I'd be happy to share that with you.
Those are my questions, Your Worship. Thank you, Alex, for your answers.
Thank you, Councillor Gallons. Any further questions? Councillor Airy. You're muted.
Hi, Alex. I guess we have some current concerns about the duplex. Is there a big difference in just a single dwelling unit? Can you just split them on two different lots? I think the biggest concern is the duplex on Carmichael.
Yeah, when we did our energy modeling, we found that there was a significant difference between a single family dwelling and a duplex, from both the ongoing operating costs and from a greenhouse gas emissions perspective. Because of there's that shared wall, which reduces the envelope out to the cold outside, that it actually does make quite a difference from greenhouse gases and operating costs. And because we're designing this for all around the north, we've got 50 houses in Parks Canada alone around various communities in the north, and the intent of this design was to have one that would work in a bunch of different places that we could replicate. And so when we made the design decisions, we're looking at designs that are going to be replicable in a bunch of different communities, but also that are going to get us towards the goal of reducing our greenhouse gases the most we can. And it's hard in the north because the temperatures are so cold, because we don't have as much sun solar gain as they do in the south. We have to make some compromises, and this is part of the compromise to achieve the best energy efficiency that we can.
Okay. That answers my question.
Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Devlin?
Thank you, Alex, for your presentation. I mean, I'm a big supporter of net zero housing and sort of go forward options. So I think that's great that you guys are concentrating on that. You spoke about design, you know, these have been designed for the north. But design goes two ways. One is obviously engineering design to keep heat and everything in. The other is aesthetic design as well. And I think that's part of the hump here in many ways is you've got a very modern new design placed in what is a traditional neighborhood with the other houses. We know there's one house sort of on the corner that's been built recently. But that's what a lot of the citizens, a lot of the neighbors, the residents, that's one of their large concerns is that they've invested money in their properties. They hope to have a neighborhood to their liking and to their look and their feel as well. And as proposed, and you can even see it in sort of that one diagram that you guys have with the house placed next to the existing houses. I'll be frank, it looks like a monster. It looks like a monster compared to the other houses. And that's an aesthetic consideration that both we as a community have, but also certainly the neighbors and residents on the street. So I'm leaning towards asking if there's any room for some options on redesign. And I'll give you a couple of ideas, perhaps. One is that there could be two single units, but with a shared utilities base, okay? Whether it's a shared pellet heating, something like that, where the cost would be reduced for the 2 units total, as if they weren't both single, but it allows, again, the aesthetic to go to single family houses there. It saves you guys some of the money and some of the goals that you guys have in delivering these net zero houses. And on the other side, you know, I mean, I know the direction of sort of Northern architecture and design these days, but perhaps we need to take a step back and have something that has all those efficiencies, but looks a little bit more traditional as well. Like I said, that's my thing right now. That's my real holding point right now is when I listen to the residents there, they have concerns about the value of their properties and about what they signed up for and what they felt their livability neighborhood would look like. And that's a big consideration for sure. I understand where you guys are coming from. And again, I certainly applaud the net zero effects. That was a great presentation and I'm all for that. It really does bring up some questions about the neighborhood and if there are other options. I mean, you brought up solar gain, and I have to say as a homeowner, I'm sitting here today going, is my house pointed the right direction for solar gain for me? I mean, you brought up something here that I hadn't even considered before, and now I'm a little concerned that my house might not be shaped or put in the right direction. So we learn something new every day. So that's sort of where I'm at is there room for any type of redesign, thinking outside the box a little bit on something like this for this specific neighborhood? Thank you.
Thanks for that question. That's an excellent question, an excellent comment. The short answer is yes, and the longer answer is I really like your suggestion of having a shared utility space, and it's one that we actually looked at and modeled in the early days. It was one that we were trying to fit into the design. And ultimately, we looked at a whole bunch of shapes of sort of ranch style, tall, all sorts of different shapes. And when you're looking at energy efficiency in a building, unfortunately, the squarer you can be, the better, because that minimizes the surface area outside. And so what what the architects have tried to do is keep the building as simple as you can to minimize the surface area, but then add some flares on the outside to make it not too boring. With a shared utility space, you add quite a bit of surface area that does increase the energy demand. So when we did model the option of having shared utility spaces between two buildings, we found that it was quite a bit more energy requirements. So that particular one we did look at. One thing that we'd certainly be willing to go back with the architects is to look at siding, or look at colors, or look at the way the house looks to try and fit it in better. I would say that there is another house that you mentioned that was just built, and we're not too far off of that design and that construction. But yeah, we're certainly open to feedback to try and massage it so it fits in a little bit more, or if people have suggestions that way. I think for going to a full redesign and rethinking the whole entire shape, that could be challenging, or we may have already thought about different designs and had to say no to them because of the modeling. But I don't know. Do I answer your question adequately there?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, it's Alana here.
Yes, Alana.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Alex. One of my questions is there a reason you can't go across the utility where the RCMP duplexes are and build there with your south-facing design on that side? And you still have your southern exposure.
I'm not sure that those lots were presented to us when we worked with the town. Well, they were not. Yeah.
Okay. So perhaps maybe SAO Hood can clarify if those lots are available.
Right. Sorry, if you're looking at the ones that continuing on where the RCMP ones were built, the current utility system ends right there. We'd have to build a whole new utility system in there just because of how the elevations work. We can't go further on Bumpus if that's the way you're looking at this point in time, just because of there would be no utility system. And we'd have to build it, and it would have to go all the way down almost to Inuit and to cut across just because of the engineering from it.
Okay. I don't suppose there's any chance the houses could be pump in, pump out instead of being on the utility, is there?
What was that? Sorry?
I said I don't suppose there's any suggestion that the houses could be pump in, pump out service instead of the utility, is there?
I'm not saying no. I think our policy has been basically if you're going to be in those areas, would be the only stipulation could be that occasional use saying that when the utility comes, they have to hook up to the utility. That could be an option.
Okay. Because I'm hearing the same concerns that Councillor Devlin did, that people feel it looks very institutional, that it doesn't look like a warm house. And the other comment, Alex, I know you talked about the front yards, but quite honestly, I live near a couple of Parks houses. The yards are an embarrassment. So, and I think that's part of what people are worried about, that the yards need to be actual yards and well cared for. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thank you for your presentation, Alex. Oh, I see Councillor Harder has a question.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Alex. My question is basically the same as Alana and Tony. I think we all, as all councillors. I was just curious, did you guys happen to look at the lot over by where they're building the two new RCMP units on Mackenzie across from the hospital. I know that there's a derelict row house that's sitting there that's been vacant for many, many years, and that's a south-facing lot as well. And then you could totally go with your design, because I'm a huge fan of passive houses, and I do like the design that you brought forward, but it does not personally suit that neighborhood. And I think that location there, if you guys have looked at that or haven't, I think that's a perfect and prime location for the staff houses. So it's just an option. I'm just presenting it to you. Thank you.
Thanks for that. When we were looking for lots, we were looking for empty lots, ideally. And we went through with the town and the development officer to find whatever was available. So we looked at all the options that were available and that were empty and ready to go. And that was the criteria that we were aiming with.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just look at it as though it's kind of killing, it's a two-edged sword kind of thing, like killing. Basically, you could do the town a service by getting rid of a derelict building, and then you can still keep your design. I think it could be a possible win-win, but I'll leave it at that, and you guys can take a look. Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Councillor Gellens, you had one last question?
I did, Your Worship. So Alex, I know we've been asked about alternative lots. Can I ask you, when was the last time you had a chance to sit down with the town and actually look for lots? I don't know kind of how long it's been since you had a chance to go back to that question and do another search.
Yeah, after our meeting in May, we spent the summer working with the town to look for lots. So it was this summer.
That answers your question, Councillor. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Thank you. I just got to throw the question out there. Is a passive house / low emission house or two houses totally off the table? Does the project become undoable if it needs to be, like, is there any chance of doing 2 single dwelling homes?
I can take that, Alex, if you'd like.
Yes, go ahead, David. Yeah.
So the challenge that we've been given across all of the government of Canada is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And for many of our southern parks, they've got extensive infrastructure that they can look at reducing greenhouse gas emissions through those. We've showed the modeling to our senior executives between the difference of a single family dwelling versus the duplex, and although there is a savings with the 2 single family dwellings, it's considerably less than half of what the duplex gets. So given that we've only got a limited number of ways in the Western Arctic to save greenhouse gases, we don't have those same infrastructures across our facilities. I don't think we would get support from our senior executives to build 2 single dwellings and get lesser greenhouse gas savings.
Thank you. Anything further? Seeing none. Thank you for your presentation, Alex and David. We'll make a decision on this on Wednesday night. So if you'd like to come back then, thank you for your time. Okay, moving on. 8.3, appointment of members to the Bylaw Review Committee. I understand there was a question on scheduling. What's been suggested is either Thursday nights in January, April, July, and October, or 4 times a year, or on weekends. So I need 3 members for that committee if you approve of the meeting schedule. Counselor Gowans, Counselor Devlin, and I need one more.
I would be willing to sit on that committee.
Okay, Counselor Merrill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have 3 members. Anything further? Okay, we'll vote on that on Wednesday night. 8.4, holiday hours for town facilities. Any comments? Counselor Devlin?
Yeah, I was just curious, have we built in the fact that the 25th is a Saturday and the 1st is a Saturday into Mondays? Just gonna ask Grant, SAO Hood that, just because it seems that we've got staff working on what I would assume would be a stat holiday because of the weekend.
We've taken all that into consideration. There have in the past, we have done a few things on those days at the MSC, just for families. And but it has been taken into consideration depending on and staff scheduling, and that Lee's may be able to address it a little better than I can. But basically on the Boxing Day is the one day where we are open for the squash courts and the fitness center, but however, the arena's closed, if you notice, the library and that. And again, under employment standards, depending on if they're scheduled to work that day, they get paid, and et cetera, et cetera. If they're working on the Monday or the Tuesday, then we follow what employment standards would be. Don't know if that answered the question, but it's, we do take that into consideration.
Well, it looks here as if I'm a regular Inuvik staff member, that works Monday to Friday, I work Monday to Friday, the 24th, get off at noon, and I'm back at noon on Monday. But Saturday, which is a stat holiday, isn't covered on the Monday. And I mean, as a council, I'm perfectly willing to let the staff have that extra day off and not have to open up everything on the 27th. But I'm but one voice.
If I can say something,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
because we're a 7-day operation at the MSC, for that week, say Saturday through Sunday, which is the 25th through to the 31st, staff have 2 stats that they're paid that week, plus 2 days off. So they can technically work 3 days. So staff, because all the town employees get 3 mandatory days during that week, if we're a 7-day operation, they get to carry those 3 days that they work. They get to carry that into next year to be able to take those 3 days off anytime they choose. So staff have volunteered basically to, like, I've had 3 that volunteered to carry 9 of the 12 shifts that we needed, and then 3 other staff each elected to take 1 day, and we're able to fulfill that schedule with, they still get their stat pay or their stat days. It's just that they're not a Monday to Friday operation, so they conceivably get their stat day on the Saturday and the 26th on the Sunday, and then again the 1st on the 1st.
Yes, Tony.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other concerns? Okay, moving on. I believe Councillor Harder has a conflict with 8.5.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so if you'd like
That's
to leave for a bit.
No problem.
Okay, 8.5 is the solid waste disposal facility operations contract. We had received 2 bids. Bob's Welding at $286,872 a year, and Harder Enterprise at $279,000 per year. Pretty close. Anyway, the decision recommended to council is that we award the contract to Harder Enterprise with the low bid. Any questions or concerns on that? Seeing none. If somebody could get a hold of Councillor Harder and let him know we're done. We'll
He's
give him a
still there.
second to come back. S.A. Hood, were you getting a hold of Councillor Harder?
As soon as I find my phone.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just having trouble finding where my phone went to text them.
I'm back.
Okay, well, moving on. 8.6, a request from the Legion for approval to use the lottery proceeds. Did everybody receive the answers to the questions that were posed? Okay, any further questions, concerns, or comments on this one? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Yes, I have a couple concerns. I've been struggling with this one, and although they did answer our questions, I understand the part about why they would have been considered ineligible because of the money in the bank, because they don't understand or whatever. But in speaking with President Craik over at the Legion, my understanding is that the Legion does still have dollars in their building reserve that maybe in an investment of some sort, but would be accessible to them at some point, or should be. I understand from the rules of the lottery that I think it's 50% of something that comes in can be used for things like building, but it can't be used for like day-to-day operations. And so I guess my question is, could they access that money to sustain themselves instead of this request? And then as a member at the Legion and as a community member, I don't see the Legion doing anything to get people in the building to make money. So I don't feel comfortable letting them use lottery funds that would set a precedent for other groups in order to do that when, they have a vaccination rule in place. As I understand it, they could be running Chase the Ace on Friday nights to a limited capacity and getting dollars coming in the door, and that's just not happening. And so I kind of wish that someone from the Legion was here to speak about it, but I don't know. As of right now, I'm not in favor of allowing this. Because I do think it sets a very dangerous precedent for future lottery funds in the community. And while fully acknowledging the amount of work and fundraising that the Legion does do. But I think that some harder work needs to be done to get people in the door instead of accessing these dollars. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further comments?
Yeah, it's Alana here.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to echo what Councillor Kulikowski has said. As much as I want to see the Legion help, I can't satisfy my thought process that they've tried everything they could. And even if money is tied up in investments, this might be the time to take it out, even if there's a slight loss, to keep things operational, but also to get people back in the door. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anything further? Councillor Devlin.
Yes, I sort of I echo Councillor Kulikowski and Councillor Miro. I think one of the concerns I have is that they haven't shown us any type of go forward business plan to take care of operations costs going forward. When I did speak with the president, it was mentioned that in the past they'd used the Chase the Ace monies before they were under license to help defray some of the operations costs. And indeed, they're looking to us now for some of the lottery monies to defray operations costs. But going forward, they can't keep on coming back to this well. And we haven't really seen a business plan on how going forward they're going to cover operations costs if this was a successful or unsuccessful bid right now. And I have I've had a very tough time about this as well. But I have to go back to that they are a limited organization, and our bylaws do very clearly state children, elders, or all of community, and not for 19 plus adults. And the precedent that we would be setting for other nonprofits, it's a slippery slope, and I'm not comfortable, I think, at this point in going forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? We'll vote on that on Wednesday night. Moving on. 9.1, the proposed new quarry bylaw. Third and final reading. Any final questions on this one? Nothing?
Mayor, would I just interject for 1 sec, just so you're aware, I didn't have a chance to change the name, but Councillor Moses has been on the line as well during this meeting.
Okay. I wondered who that was. Okay, nothing further on the quarry bylaw. Moving on. 10.1 Public Services Report. Any questions for Director Campbell? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski?
Thank you. Just month after month, we hear that there's the wipes and the rags and the grease plugs and all of that. I'm just wondering if there's any solutions that we have for better public education on how to get the information into people's hands, that we need to stop doing this. If it do we need to actually do a physical mail out, or like how do we get it into people's hands? Because it's a constant issue. And I know that with COVID, it got a little bit worse, even with the Lysol wipes and things being flushed as well. So just wondering if Director Campbell, if you have any ideas on that, or like kind of where we're at with getting information to the folks on the ground that, things should not be flushed.
I don't really know what to say about that. People shouldn't have to be told that these things don't go into the sewer, into your own household toilet and stuff like that. We are running on our community service channel. This is one of the ongoing ads that keeps getting recycled through the years, so it's out there. I don't know what else to do. Mailouts at the post office traditionally end up on the floor in the post office box area, so it's not a good way to get a message across, but it's frustrating to us. As we go through with our utilidor replacement, we are improving flow in different areas, and we're putting bigger pipes in, which in the end will help us. But right now, there are some areas in town that we constantly have to go back and break up grease plugs and wipes. So, and it's normally in the old utilidor, although we do have one area that is behind the Arctic College building with the newer style sewer that we're having problems, but we have a fix in mind for that this summer. So I don't know what else to say. Sorry.
If I may interject, we have looked at different ways. One of the things was attaching something to the water bills as they go out, because those are the users. The biggest issue there is a majority of them, a lot of them are housing, et cetera, so that people don't get those bills. So as far and that is one challenge that we've got.
Councillor Devlin.
I agree that when we do mail-outs, they wind up all over the post office. But let's go old school. 10, 20 years ago, we used to get public service announcements on fridge magnets. And I still have them on my fridge downstairs, different public service announcements over the years. They're a much more effective way. People keep them, they stick them on their fridge, and those kids can sit there and I don't know what the message might be, but don't be a slob, don't send down your blobs or something like that. That's something quick and catchy, and we make them on low cost, 40 cents per piece magnets, and we give them out to every single post office in town. And sure, we'll have a little bit of a pile at the post office, but a whole bunch of people are going to stick them on their fridges at home because that's what humans do. And I think that's an idea we might be able to pursue.
Thank you, Councillor.
They should have something that sticks on the toilet, but most toilets are porcelain and won't stick onto them. So
that was my original thought, and then I realized we weren't going to be able to stick something in the toilet. So
on the fridge is not really the place that the stickers need to be. It needs to be on the toilet.
Anything further? Thank you. 10.2, Protective Services Report. Any questions on this? Nothing. 10.3, the SAO report. Any questions? Seeing none. 10.4, Capital Projects Report. Any questions on this? Nothing. 10.5, the Financial Report. Any questions on this one? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just the grants in lieu from the feds and GNWT, is it super late in the year to have not received that yet? Or is it normal that it's this long?
It's normal.
Okay.
There have been a couple times in the past years where we've had to set up up as a receivable, certainly from the GNWT, and they haven't paid us till January.
Any other questions? 10.6, Economic Development and Tourism Report. Any questions on this one? None. 11.1, sorry, 10.7, the Community Services Report. Sorry, Lise, almost missed you. Any questions for Lise? None. 11.1, Strategic Priorities Chart. 11.2 is just various research projects and information item only from the Aurora Research Institute. Item 12, council concerns. Any concerns tonight? Seeing none.
No, actually, it's Alana here. I'm sorry. I was
Yes,
just trying to unmute
Alana.
myself. So could I just do a quick update on the warming center so everybody knows what's happening?
Sure.
Okay, so first I want to thank Director Campbell and his team for responding so quickly when the previous building burnt and helping us to get people back into 5 Berger and the staff at the homeless shelter for having some of the clients there. We will be moving over to 26 Reliance, which is the Health and Social Services group home that they have very generously lent for the next 6 months. And we've had the fire marshal and the electrical inspector and the boiler inspector and public health through it to do inspections. So we're just waiting on some electrical upgrades before we move everybody over there. But there's been huge cooperation from everybody in town, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'm hoping we have people in there within a week, but the electrical work must be done before we can move in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Merrill. Yes, Councillor Devlin.
I know we didn't receive our RCMP report, but I understand that a little girl was hit by a vehicle outside the town office last week at one point, or just even briefly hit. But just concerned about that situation. Was it a slide, a vehicle sliding, or I'm not too sure about it. So it was reported in when I got to work the last Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not too sure if any of us know about this. I was kind of hoping to ask the RCMP this evening.
SAO Hood.
Obviously, I can't speak to a whole lot. What I can tell you is that it wasn't, as far as we know, a card sliding or anything. It was a combination of factors. And just my understanding also from the RCMP is that the child did not sustain any injuries.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, moving on, I need a motion to go in camera. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski and a seconder. Councillor Gallons. We'll just give it a couple of minutes so everybody but council can leave the room.